Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl back again for another X-Men review. And now I'll be covering uh the Wolverine in Japan, based on the first Wolverine miniseries by Chris Claremont that I also reviewed up on the channel, which you can find. Follow me in links in the description below on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/talkativecarl, so you can check out all my various reviews, including the X-Men stuff that I've been covering for the past few weeks at this point. And yeah, there's plenty of people for a while. They've been, well, I think the narrative has changed over time, but for a good period, people didn't really care for the Wolverine. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I loved like just the watching movies set in Japan. It's just like, I love that freaking city. I love that culture. I really want to go someday. It's like my number one places that I always want to visit for at least 3 to 4 days, just to immerse myself in that culture. I thoroughly love that. Love that place. I really want to go. Before we get further into it, I want to remind you guys that I'm very close to reaching the 400 subscriber milestone, so I'll be doing like a Hot Ones challenge video where I'll try out all the hot sauces from the show. I'm just now collecting questions from you guys. I want to try to get a leg up on that. So if you follow me on my Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, leave a comment on, leave a question in the comments on the various little things. So I'll start collecting them. I want to choose at least 10, and I'll answer those questions live on Twitch once I get everything all set and ready. So let's try to get the leg up on that. Anyway, I am want to cover, like, yeah, this movie is directed by James Mangold, and of course Hugh Jackman reprises his role as Wolverine. We have Hiroyuki Sanada as Sinjin, Tao Okamoto as Miracle, Ryla Fukushima as Yukio, who Yukio shows up 2 times in X-Men properties, this and Deadpool 2, but played by 2 different actresses, as well as having 2 different power sets. This one, she has the ability to see an individual's death, and the second appearance, she has like, electrokinesis kind of thing. Femke Jensen has a short cameo in this as Jean Grey. Will Yun Lee as Harada. Svetlana Kochikova as Viper. In this, she's immune with the ability to expel toxins from her mouth, but in the comics, she just uses like, just basic chemicals. She's an expert chemist. That's all she does. Haruhiko Yamanouchi as Yoshida, Shinjin's father, and Brian T as Noburu of the Minister of Justice. So this is set after the events, at least a couple of years after the events of X-Men: The Last Stand. At this point, Logan is in the Yukon, living like a hermit, plagued by his guilt for having to kill Jean Grey, because the whole Phoenix situation and, preventing her from causing any more deaths. but he's still feeling guilty and is haunted by her in her dreams. Like, come to me, Logan. And trying to uh just being weighed down by guilt. And of course, you see the whole situation with this bear and being hit by his poison arrow straight from the comic, and he goes in town to confront the guy who shot it, but didn't, as in his words, didn't have the balls to go finish the job. And because of that, this bear ends up going crazy and hurting some people. And he meets up with Yukio, who's been tracking him, and recruits him to come with her to Japan to meet up with an old friend of his, Ichiro. Ichiro? Yeah, Ichiro. And Ichiro, Yoshida, was a Japanese soldier during WW2, where was kind of, see, I wish they did a better job of lining it up with, as much as people hated X-Men Origins Wolverine, because you see in the beginning stages of that film, as I mentioned in my review of that, wish they could have spent a little bit more time, with each, historic events in, time of war, because he was in WWE 1, 2, and Vietnam. And during WWE 2, you get showed he got captured a little bit, and he rejoined with Creed, later on, after the whole Hiroshima was dropped. This is the point when the US dropped 2 atomic bombs over the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And this is where, Logan met up with a young Ichiro, like a POW camp near Nagasaki. And instead of following his, orders to commit, like, the honor code of seppuku, he is saved, because since Wolverine was locked up in this kind of like in metal cage like thing, this is prior to him getting adamantium claws. He still had bone claws at this point. A young Ichiro was, releasing a lot of captured prisoners, because like, we gotta like at least let them out, because it's like, this is like things are getting intense. So he goes to release Logan, but Logan isn't stepping out. He figures like, you might as well come down here with me, because you won't be able to escape that blast, or at least the blast radius. So not wanting to die, Logan brings him into the pit that he was in, and using this, I guess, iron door, I guess you can say is iron, and put it over Yichiro. And awesome, display, because like this is probably the most intense injury that Wolverine can ever be put himself into, where he's literally getting, receiving like the brunt of the not the full blast, but like part of the blast, where, because some of it reaching a bit into the pit that they were in, as small as it is, it's still some reach in, and the flame is just like, just cooked his body. but he just healing, right away from that. And it's like, I love it. You can say, for one thing, like in all these films, they make the healing of Wolverine look really, really good. And of course, and there's been moments when, like, Wolverine has flashbacks to this moment, and you see like Yashiro like ask him like talking with Wolverine while they're waiting down in the pit because they can't go out right away because of the radiation fallout. And he wants to repay Wolverine for saving his life, so he tried to give him his sword, and it's like, you hold on to that, I'll come back for it. So Yukio, of course, in the comics, Yukio was like an assassin who was attracted to Wolverine and tried to kill Mariko in order to, so Wolverine will have eyes for her. They changed all that up here, which is fine. It's not the biggest deal. It doesn't need to be 1-for-1. But the only thing I have against it is because Harada in the comics is supposed to be the Silver Samurai. And the Silver Samurai has like a mutant ability of channeling tachyon energy through his body, which he channels through his katana sword. But they don't have it like that here, which is kind of like a bummer. So Wolverine reluctantly goes to Japan. It's like, look, I'll go one day, say my goodbyes, and I'm out. And that's where he sees he's in the house of Yoshida. He sees like Senjin, Muriko, and the father is a piece of work. But I gotta say, like, I always love to see Hiroyuki Sanada in anything, because he is just like a phenomenal actor. And he can play up evil very well. And this honor-bound duty, strict, like, at least, as Yuriko put it, have one eye on the future, one eye in the past, where it's like a very traditional kind of household. And the father's kind of bitter because, his father left control of the company to his granddaughter and not to him, because I guess he favored her over his own son. Was, kind of messed up thinking he must have. The father, not the grandfather. Anyway, after he gets himself cleaned up, he meets up with Ichiro, who says that his company has the capability to make him mortal and transfer his healing ability over to him, because he's still not ready to die, and he doesn't trust the people around him to run the things that the way he wants it run. But because he's dying of cancer at this point. But Wolverine, it's like, this is a curse. I'm not gonna do that. You don't want to be like me. And some people, I remember, poo-pooing this whole concept of being able to transfer Wolverine's power to another person. You can easily chalk it up to comic book logic. I'm not, downplaying that, because there's crazy stuff in comics all the time. And just because it transfers, that kind of thought process to a movie or a TV show, shouldn't be like considered like, oh, you're above that kind of thinking. Like, it's like so ridiculous. Like, it's comic book logic. You can easily, like, not everything needs to be hard science just for you to buy it. So you can, I'm willing to like at least let that ride. Like, yeah, I can accept that. It's not that too dissimilar to what we seen from the first Deadpool movie with Ajax, forcing mutations, any latent mutations in people. Or even like Magneto with the in the first X-Men movie with his machine trying to force evolution. So it's not that too dumb. As a matter of fact, it's probably more logical than either one of those situations. So once again, like Wolverine has like a dream about Jean, but he is injected by Viper, who plays as Yuichiro's doctor, injects Wolverine with this kind of robotic parasite that we come to see later to be suppressing his ability to heal properly. He's not healing as fast as he should. Later that night, Yuichiro dies, and the funeral comes up the next day, and it's like, well, it should usually takes about like at least a few days, but Wolverine sticks around for the funeral, and he notices that some of the parishioners aren't who they say they are. He's they turn out to be Yakuza, and they're trying to kidnap Murako, and Wolverine immediately steps into the fray to save her. And while Harada is on the roof with his bow and arrow, sniping folks, Yukio's on the ground taking some down. And even though it doesn't go as hard as Logan would, at the very least you get this, blood may not be splattering all over the place, but at the very least you see his claws covered in blood, and you see like there's blood here and there. It isn't as like gory like a horror movie, but you actually see some stuff than you was able to in the previous X-Men films, or even with the rebooted ones after First Class. So Wolverine's getting shot and stuff like that, and he's like, something's not right, because he's like, even though he feels the pain, he quickly recovers, because it's like he fast healer, so he just goes right into it again. But here it's like he's slowing down, and he's trying to figure like, okay, what the heck is going on? But he recovers. It takes him a while, but he recovers. He takes some fools out, and he gets Mariko, and they go on this kind of merry chase through the busy streets of Tokyo, and they end up on this bullet train. And of course they gotta have the bullet train, because there was a bullet train in the Claremont miniseries, which in that Yukio and Wolverine was already drunk, and she's kind of like a thrill seeker, and also plus horny for him, and he tried to like, oh, a perfect way to die, like full of ecstasy and like adrenaline and ecstasy. But here Wolverine is taking on more Yakuza, who somehow managed to, even though they were kind of way behind them, some managed to be on this specific train they happen to be on. And so awesome cinematography where you get to see Wolverine fight on top of a bullet train in Tokyo fighting Yakuza, and it's awesome looking. I don't care what anybody says. This is, I think everybody's in agreement. This part, like, some who downplay this movie also agree this part was, a great fight scene, but I argue that this entire movie is, very good. uh sure, there's, certain like plot holes here and there, but I think is definitely astoundingly better than Origins was. Astoundingly on like a wide scale. As a matter of fact, kudos to this director who, during Wolverine's nightmares, you hear like audio from stuff that happened during Origins with like Kayla Silverfox, his girlfriend at the time. And it's like, the very least, you want to make, despite what Deadpool might say, you want to make it part of the Wolverine lore. Could have done better, but at least you haven't like totally forgotten like at least some parts. Not dwelling too much, but like just remind like, hey, this is, not totally forgotten. And it's a funny moment where it's like, Wolverine faked out this Yakuza guy and he jumped up and get hit by a billboard. That was so funny. And so they managed to reach the end of the line to one of an old Yashida house where, Mariko goes to. Before we even get to that, they stop. They make a quick stop because it rains a lot in this film. Maybe just the weather at the time they was filming this, but they end up at this love motel. They have to make a quick stop to rest a bit, and Wolverine ends up, passing out from his wounds, and the old woman who's running the place has a grandson who's a vet who packs him up as best as he could, and then they end up going to the old house. They're, as true to the comic, Wolverine and Mariko get close, and she asked him about like she kept asking like, who's Jean? He kept calling her name, and he tells her somebody he loved very much, but he had to kill her. But as he freaks out and having like another nightmare about her, he pops his claws and she, caresses it because kudos, because like, the Yashida family is just like, kind of, I won't say hardened, but they show no, well, I don't say show no fear, but they very brave people. And so she's just kind of caressing his claws and stuff like that. And it's like, dude, unsheath, or say, sheath your claws, okay? Relax. But he's in like kind of hyper, vigilance mode at this point. And she goes to this story, really hard to like kind of like I was paying attention, but it's kind of like not too dissimilar to what Kayla was trying to give him the story about the Wolverine back in Origins, and Mariko's giving him another story about some beast and something about it. I really didn't really. It was hard for me to like kind of retain that kind of story because it was kind of like a know nothing kind of story. Pretty much not that, like I said, not too dissimilar to that same kind of thing about, the poor animal that, doesn't want to be kind of situation. The next day, for some reason, somehow, while Wolverine is asleep, Mariko is taken by Sinjin's people, and it's like how do they get her underneath your nose? But he managed to get a hold of one of those thugs and interrogates him. He meets up with Yukio, why she connected to his family. The grandfather found her in the streets as a child. His granddaughter needed a friend, so she was kind of raised in the family. So they kind of have like a sister relationship, as opposed to the comics where Yukio's at odds with Murako. So Wolverine finds out from the thug that the Minister of Justice is in cahoots with Murako's father, who wants to orchestrate the death or kidnapping, or at least you'll think it's like a kidnapping, just to have control over the company. Since he's not around, the sole control will be his. But he constantly putting his, daughter's life in danger for the sake of that. So he goes to the Minister of Justice, who's supposed to be like a stand-up person of the law. And he, after he finds out about like the conspiracy, he tosses this sucker right out the window. He managed to land in this pool in the bottom, and Yukio asks like, how'd you know there was a pool down there? I didn't. It was very Batman-like, because I can totally see Batman doing the exact same thing. I like to think I have maybe in a comic where he just like tosses a fool out the window and just lands on something safe, and it's like, how did you know that was down there? I didn't. This is Wolverine's just like the epitome of badass. So Yu-Gi-Oh warns Wolverine that she has a vision of his death. You're dying with holding your heart in your hand. Of course, we know in Logan, it's not his literal heart, it's a metaphorical heart, his daughter. So, slight spoiler for that. But we'll get to it in the next movie I will cover in Logan, because I haven't seen that since I saw it in the theater. As good as it is, it's like, people, we all love it. We all do love it. Some love it more to the point where they watch it like repeatedly, and it's like I like it, but it's it's over me to put it like at my top favorite Marvel. It's got to be, if I'm looking at it objectively, or not even objectively, it's high. It ranks very high. I can't say like out of all the Marvel films I ever seen as a whole, it'll be close to top 10, but I don't know if it will be exactly in the top 10, but maybe it's definitely close. Top 12, obviously. So, well, Shinji's people gets his daughter to him. Harada's ninja clan starts, silently killing Shinji's guards, who he and Viper is working obviously under Ichiro. He didn't really die. That's not even gonna even bury the lead here. And here's the thing. She licks a pen with her venom, sticks it in Shinji's neck after they get Murako from him. He seemingly like falls into the pond out in the middle of the Zen garden and seemingly falls to his wounds, because other people die immediately after she injects them with her toxin. But he gets up later after he gathers his old silver samurai armor, which kudos to actually having like a classic samurai garb, but it's like, you know, painted silver, so you can actually kind of get your classic Silver Samurai comic to TV screen before you get the Iron Man-esque samurai suit later in the film. But you get two variations of it, which I kind of appreciate. And Wolverine's on the Ichiro's operating table, get the X-ray scan to see this little parasite clutching his heart, suppressing his healing capabilities. Now, keep in mind, a lot of mutants' abilities stem from their brain, because the brain, you know, is like the head honcho of your entire body. You can't do anything without the brain telling it to do so. So it would make more logical sense it being in the brain, suppressing the part of the brain that controls the healing activation, but it's near his heart. So he cuts open his chest and pulls it out, despite Yukio's protest. He pulls that thing out, and he passes out while Yukio and Senjin are sword fighting. Before he lands the final blow on her, Wolverine wakes up and you see this awesome fight. Wolverine's back in action. His healing capabilities is just like, you know, back to 100%, and he just like, handing Sinjin's ass. And Wolverine trying to walk away with honor, just like, I yield this fight. You try to have your own daughter killed, you live with that. And of course, he just won't back down, tries to come at him with a fatal blow. He deals it, but it's useless. And he's, asks, like, what are you? It's the Wolverine. And right from, like, there's a lot of stuff from this film that's like a straight off the page from the Claremont miniseries, right up to the point where Wolverine has his fist up to Sinjin's neck and he pops his claws, and you can see it go through his, back of his, neck, with the snit sound, like straight up from the comic. I was like, oh my god! At that time when the movie came out, I didn't read like the miniseries. As a matter of fact, when I reviewed that comic a week or so ago, this was my first time reading that miniseries. So I was like, now that I'm rewatching this movie, I see so many beat for beats from the comic in this movie. So it's really, really cool. So they find out that this building under construction is where they took Miracle, and that's where they end up going. And Harada is doing all this for Yukio because they grew up to be friends, and at a time lovers, and they're supposed to have been wed, but they had two different duties. Duties. And Wolverine shows up, and a fight ensues with all these ninjas shooting Wolverine with arrows. And of course, Harada have a few of his dipped in Viper's toxins, and it's like an awesome shot where you just see a bunch of these, like, well over a dozen ninjas, with arrows tied to, rope, trying to, hog tie Wolverine. And he just, by sheer force of will, just like trying to walk towards the building, trying to save Miracle. And they just like a whole alley and rooftops filled with ninjas, and they all just trying to pull this dude. And he finally succumbs to the toxins, and he passes out. But man, that was an awesome shot under the moonlit sky. That looks so good. But man, it just like, shows like just the sheer force of will of Wolverine, just like is unparalleled. So they got him, strapped to this machine where they're trying to, where this this movie Silver Samurai, this very Iron Man-esque suit of armor gets up, and it looks good. It looks really, really good, I gotta say. And you got this superheated adamantium blade, which harkens to what you heard from Stryker from X2. You know, you gotta keep adamantium hot. Because once it cools, it's indestructible. So he superheats the katana and try to cut off Wolverine's claws, because they need to extract from his bone marrow through his claws. Like, I guess it makes sense. I don't know why you just can't put him into the same kind of like machine that you saw in X-Men Origins, and just get some drills to, like, superheated drills to, like, get inside, get past the adamantium covering to get to the bones and extract the marrow through there. I guess it works just as fine, I guess. So thanks to Miracle's intervention and getting through to Harada about how wrong this is, and like this is immoral, it goes beyond your duty to the Yoshida clan. So thanks to Miracle's intervention, Yuichiro slices the machine to release Wolverine, and he tackles the Silver Samurai machine or armor to the lower levels, and tries to fight this thing off. Harada has tried to step in and help, but ends up getting killed by this thing. And Yukio shows up. Don't know how she not showed up at the same time as Wolverine. Maybe they had like a separate conversation about her hanging back and coming in through like a different way, like she does. But it was like a pretty lengthy time while he was knocked out and drugged into the building. While they was doing that, she could have been slipping in at the same time, but this is like, several minutes, possibly maybe even like 10 minutes after, Wolverine tried to enter this facility. But I guess he's two-pronged attack. He come in directly, and she tried to sneak in while he got everybody distracted. But I really wish there was like a moment of them hashing out this plan. But she comes in and she fights off Viper and ends up causing her to get hanged by a elevator coil thing. So that's the end of her. And of course, through the midst of this fight, Wolverine's claws are getting chopped off, and Yuichiro tried to extract from the bone marrow to transfer the abilities from Wolverine to him, and you see like the slow process of him getting younger. But Miracle shows up, gets the broken claws off the ground, and stabs her grandfather in the neck, saying like, "I buried my grandfather." And almost like I count it as like a badass line. It was like, "I'm your grandfather, Miracle. I buried my grandfather." And a lot of people question the fact that clearly the process of the healing factor was getting through. That shouldn't, I guess, because it wasn't quote unquote complete, he still managed to actually die, but I cry foul too, because at the very least, maybe it's not complete, but he should have some minor healing factor at the very least to survive this level of a wound. But Wolverine recovers, slices through, because he got bone claws. His bone claws regenerated at this point, and he slices through the portion of the armor and stabs Yutro, saying like, "You wanted me to say goodbye? Sayonara," and tosses him out the building, and he dies in the rocks below. Now here, because this will lead into Days of Future Past later on when I cover that, and I'm trying to remember, and maybe he does. I'm just, because I haven't seen that movie. That is like the best. Days of Future Past is the best X-Men movie of all the X-Men movies. That is arguably the better one. Logan, I argue, is probably second best. But like Days of Future Past is like the best X-Men film we have seen to date at this point. And just struggle to remember whether or not he had the bone claws there or he got his adamantium claws. Because if you're tracking the timeline here, he should have the bone claws in that point in time anyway. But once I rewatch that film, I can probably make sure I pay attention, because I'm pretty sure he still has the bone claws. So Wolverine finally has this, like, while he's recovering, he's speaking with Jean after she says, like, "Come to me, I'm so alone," and Wolverine's like, "I can't go with you, Jean. Like, I had to do what I had to do. You was killing people." Finally relieving himself of that guilt, and he says his goodbyes to Jean, tells her he loves her, and he says goodbye to Mariko. Him and Yukio go on a plane. Of course, there's a deleted scene where you see like a Wolverine, classic Wolverine brown and yellow costume. I prefer it to be blue and yellow, but whatever. I don't really care for the brown and yellow personally. And there's an end credit scene where Wolverine's back in America. Don't know where Yukio is, but because I guess it's like a 2-year period between the events of this movie up until the post-credit, and that's when they go off on their own little adventure. It'll be kind of fun to see, like, I'm pretty sure maybe it's a comic detailing the events of what Yukio and Wolverine has been up to during that 2-year period. But Wolverine's back in America. Professor Xavier is back alive, working with Magneto at this point. And of course, people question like how he's able to control Wolverine's hand when he doesn't have his metal claws anymore. Well, his skeleton is still laced with adamantium, so he can still hold his arm. And this leads into Days of Future Past, the events of Days of Future Past, and the the perfection of the Sentinels, and they recruiting every mutant that they can find to take on this horrible threat that's coming about. And that's pretty much the Wolverine. I thoroughly enjoyed it, despite like the few stuff that I picked out that was agreeably kind of like confusing to a lot of people. Overall, this movie is fantastic. Great, like nearly great shot for shot of the miniseries, and they really done their homework. My personal, if I have any kind of con against this movie, is what they did with the Silver Samurai, namely not having Harada, who's in the comics known to be this Silver Samurai, and not having him the Silver Samurai. But what they did insofar, everybody was acting their butts off. Everybody did a fantastic job. Thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I'm glad I rewatched it. It was super fun. So the next X-Men film will be Logan, which, like I said, I haven't seen that since the movie theater, and it'd be fun to revisit it again. Old Man Logan, which I have to admit to something. There's a few comics that come to mind that everybody thoroughly enjoys, and I agree that I have respect for as far as, you know, great narrative. It just never was my cup of tea personally. Old Man Logan, Flashpoint, and Batman Returns comic, you know, saying this dystopian future thing. 3 of those comics, even though they've been well regarded as one of the, you know, like the best comics ever written, I personally never really cared for them, you know, because it's not my favorite interpretation of the character stories, but I respect the narrative that was telling. But it's just not my cup of tea. I don't really care for Old Man Logan like that. I know a lot of people do. Personally, it's not my thing. But as far as even though Logan's kind of adapting that, I do enjoy the Logan movie because it's not like exactly one for one because it's still set in the future. But not every mutant is dead. It's just the bulk of the X-Men are dead. But anyway, that will be the next X-Men movie I'll be covering. As far as like the, but I gotta make sure I get really, because I got season 4 and 5 of 90s X-Men to cover. I need to get the ball rolling on that. So as far as like the comics, I'm gonna probably have to give that a break just for a little while I get to jump on the TV show and then the movie. But the next X-Men comic that I will be doing soon will be Bishop and then Cable. So that'll be the next ones. Then Psylocke will probably be one. Well, actually, I should do Domino after, because Cable and Domino have their thing, and then I might as well do like, yeah. Well, we'll see after Domino. I was thinking about doing another Deadpool comic because I already did like a Deadpool spoiler review comic, I believe, up on the channel already. Well, no, I did a Deadpool movie. I don't think I did like a Deadpool comic review. So I do but I should do Deadpool 2 alongside with the Deadpool comic. So we'll see how I get that all figured out. But yeah, the next 2 comics I will be doing is Bishop and Cable for now. I'll figure the rest out soon after. But hopefully I'll have well, I still got the X-Men prequel films to cover. First Class, Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, and Dark Phoenix, which I have not seen Dark Phoenix before. And I know it's bad, but I'm gonna have to, you know, because I'm watching that, and then the last movie will be Deadpool 2. I'm not doing the New Mutants, I'm sorry. But when I do Deadpool 2 movie for the review, that's when I'll do the Deadpool comic review. Go back to back. But anyway, yeah, we're pretty much halfway through the X-Men movies at this point, and so got a lot of comics to take care of, but and then the TV shows. So anyway, leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought of the Wolverine. If you haven't seen it in a while, do yourself a favor, rewatch it. You might get a kick out of it if you never cared for it in the past. You might change your opinion now. It's on Disney Plus, so definitely check it out. So I will see you all within a week or so, where I'll have some. I want to try to make sure I get wrap up season 4 and 5 of 90s X-Men TV show back to back, so I can get on to X-Men Evolution TV show. And then the last X-Men TV show will be X-Men, Wolverine and the X-Men. So anyway, I'll see you all soon. Take care. Follow me in links in the description below. If you like this video, please leave a like, comment. Make sure you leave a question for the Hot Ones Challenge video if you want to ask me something. But yeah, I will see you all soon. Take care.